The alarm screamed through Crossroads Station at exactly 14 water station time. Commander Hyun Nam was drinking coffee in his office when every screen turned red. He dropped his cup and ran to the command center. His heart pounded in his chest as he pushed through the crowded hallways. People were already panicking, asking questions he couldn't answer yet. When he reached the command center, the screen showed something terrible. 40 ships had appeared from nowhere, surrounding the station like wolves around prey. They were big ships covered in weapons and painted dark red. The Crimson Fleet. Even the name made people afraid. Tixara, the avian security chief, stood beside him. Her feathers were standing straight up, a sign of fear in her species. She clicked her beak nervously as she studied the screens. Velnok, the station's insectoid engineer, made worried clicking sounds with his mandibles. The numbers were clear and terrible. 40 warships. The station had only basic shields and a few old defense guns. A message came through on the main channel. The voice was harsh and cruel. Warlord Kralvex demanded that the station surrender immediately. He wanted access to all the vaults, all the cargo, all the valuables. He gave them 1 hour to decide. Hyun Nam looked around the command center. His crew was afraid. The station held 12,000 people from dozens of different species. Families, children, merchants, students, people who had never hurt anyone. He thought about surrendering. Maybe Kralvex would take what he wanted and leave. But he knew better. Pirates like this didn't leave witnesses. He refused the surrender demand. His voice was steady even though his hands were shaking. Kralvex laughed, a horrible sound that echoed through the speakers. Then the attack began. The first weapons hit the shields hard. The whole station shook. Lights flickered. Alarms started going off everywhere. The shields held for now, but they were designed for small debris, not military weapons. Velnok watched his screens and calculated quickly. The shields would fail in 48 hours, maybe less if the pirates kept firing at full power. Hyun Nam ordered all staff to emergency positions. He sent messages to every government within range. The station had contracts with the Avian Republic, the Insectoid Collective, the Reptilian Trade Union, and a dozen smaller powers. Surely someone would help. They sent distress calls on every frequency, every channel, every way they could think of. The responses came back slowly. Each one felt like a knife in his chest. The Avian Republic said they were too far away. Their nearest fleet would take 5 days to arrive. The Insectoid Collective said they didn't have enough ships in the sector. The Reptilian Trade Union said they couldn't risk war with the Crimson Fleet over one station. The messages kept coming, each one another excuse, another reason why help wasn't coming. Hours passed. The attacks continued. Fires broke out in the lower sections. The engineering crews worked desperately to contain them. People evacuated from damaged areas, carrying children and belongings. The market district, usually full of noise and life, was empty and dark. Shop owners had locked their doors and fled to safer sections. Romak, a reptilian merchant, watched from his shop window as people ran past. He was known across the sector for being selfish and greedy. He only cared about profit, but now watching families flee in terror, something felt different in his chest. He had lived on this station for 10 years. These people were his neighbors. He realized he might die here with them. In the command center, the situation got worse. A direct hit damaged one of the main shield generators. Velnok reported that they now had maybe 36 hours, not 48. Water recycling systems were failing in 3 sections. Medical supplies were running low from treating the injured. And still no help was coming. Tixara organized the security teams, but what could they do? They had basic weapons meant for stopping drunk traders, not fighting professional pirates. She looked at Hyun Nam with her large, bird-like eyes. There was a question there. What do we do? He had no answer. By the 20th hour, reality set in. No one was coming to save them. The galaxy had abandoned Crossroads Station. Hyun Nam sat in his office, recording a message. His voice was tired. He said goodbye to his family on Earth, a planet he hadn't seen in 15 years. He apologized to the people of the station for failing them. He tried to sound brave, but the words felt empty. 12 light-years away, a human warship was finishing routine patrol. The HSSV Indomitable was a large vessel, built for war but hoping for peace. Captain Daewon Kim sat in his command chair, reading reports. He was a man in his late 40s with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in the first contact wars, back when humanity was new to the galaxy and everyone wanted to test them. The communications officer suddenly spoke up. They had received a distress call. It was faint, coming from far away, but the message was clear. A station was under attack. Thousands of civilians were trapped. Help was needed immediately. Captain Kim called his senior officers to the bridge. Commander Hana Lee arrived first, her uniform perfect as always. She was his tactical officer, sharp and smart. Lieutenant June Park came running from engineering, still holding a repair tool. Dr. Minji Choi came last, wiping her hands on a towel. She had been in surgery. They looked at the data. The station was 3 days away at maximum speed. The message said they had less than 2 days before shields failed. Even if the Indomitable left right now and pushed the engines beyond safe limits, they would arrive too late. And when they got there, 40 pirate ships would be waiting. Hana Lee calculated the odds. 1 ship against 40. She had fought in many battles, but this was close to suicide. June Park said he could push the engines harder, maybe cut the travel time, but the ship might not survive the strain. Dr. Choi reminded them that high-speed travel would hurt the crew too. People would be injured just from the acceleration. Captain Kim listened to all of this. Then he asked a simple question. Who else had responded to the distress call? The communications officer checked. No one. The station had sent messages everywhere. Everyone had made excuses. The Indomitable was the only ship that seemed to care. Kim stood up from his chair. He looked at his crew, these people he had served with for years. He told them the truth. This mission would be dangerous. They might not come back. The odds were terrible, but 12,000 people were going to die if someone didn't help them. Someone had to go. Someone had to try. He asked for a vote. Every hand went up. Every single person on the bridge volunteered. June Park was already on his communicator, telling engineering to prepare the engines for maximum burn. Hana Lee was calculating attack patterns for fighting a larger fleet. Dr. Choi was ordering her medical staff to prepare for casualties. The Indomitable changed course. Its engines burned bright as it accelerated, pushing harder than the designers ever intended. Inside the ship, the crew felt the pressure pushing them into their seats. It was uncomfortable, painful even, but no one complained. They strapped themselves in and endured. Captain Kim sat in his command chair watching the countdown timer. 3 days to travel, 2 days before the station died. They were racing against time and physics itself. He thought about the people on that station, strangers he had never met. They didn't know help was coming. They thought they were alone. They thought no one cared enough to save them. They were wrong. The station's main plaza was silent. Normally it was full of noise, music, and vendors shouting about their goods. Now it looked like a ghost town. The lights were dimmed to save power. Empty shops stared out with dark windows. A child's toy lay abandoned on the ground, forgotten in the panic. 30 hours had passed since the attack began. The situation was getting worse with each hour. A massive explosion rocked the eastern section, tearing a hole in the outer hull. Alarms blared as atmosphere rushed out into space. Emergency doors slammed shut, sealing off the damaged area. 17 people were trapped on the wrong side. They died in seconds. Commander Hyun Nam ordered the evacuation of all outer sections. Thousands of people crowded into the inner core of the station, designed to hold maybe 4,000. They packed into corridors, storage rooms, anywhere with air and walls. Parents held their children close. The elderly sat on the floor, too tired to stand. Fear hung in the air like smoke. Velnock worked without stopping in the engineering section. His compound eyes were red from exhaustion. The insectoid engineer had tried everything to keep the shields running. He had rerouted power from every system he could spare. Life support was reduced to minimum levels. The temperature dropped throughout the station. People could see their breath in the air. But it wasn't enough. The math was simple and cruel. 18 hours left, maybe less. Tixara moved through the crowds trying to keep order. Her wings were folded tight against her body. Security was almost meaningless now, but she kept working anyway. What else could she do? Some people wanted to fight when the pirates boarded. Others wanted to surrender and hope for mercy. She knew there would be no mercy. She had seen what pirates did to stations they conquered. In a small corner of the residential section, Romak sat with a group of other merchants. They were all reptilian, scales of different colors and patterns. They had always stuck together, looking out for their own species first. But now one of them spoke about his wife, an avian. Another mentioned his business partner, an insectoid. Romak realized something. Over the years, without noticing, they had all become connected to other species. This station was their home. These people were their community. The attacks from outside continued steadily. Kralvex wasn't in a hurry. He could afford to wait and let fear do his work for him. Every few hours he sent another message demanding surrender. Each time his terms got worse. First he wanted the vaults. Then he wanted hostages. Now he wanted half the population as slaves. He was enjoying this. In the medical bay, the doctors worked with whatever they had left. Supplies were running out. An avian doctor was treating a reptilian child's burns with bandages meant for insectoids. Nothing fit right, but they made it work. Injured people lay on the floor because all the beds were full. Some were dying. The doctors couldn't save everyone. 12 light-years away, the Indomitable pushed through space at speeds that made the hull groan. Inside the engine room, Lieutenant June Park watched his screens with intense focus. The engines were running at 130% capacity. Metal was heating up beyond safe limits. Warning lights flashed red all across his board. He ignored them. They needed more speed. His engineering crew worked like machines. They replaced parts before they failed. They rerouted coolant systems. They did things the training manual said were impossible. One of the junior engineers asked if they were going to make it in time. June Park didn't answer. He didn't know. All he could do was push harder. On the bridge, Commander Hana Lee studied tactical displays. She had fought in 12 major battles during her career. She had commanded ships against raiders, smugglers, and hostile aliens. But she had never faced odds like this. 40 ships. Even if each enemy vessel was weak, the numbers were overwhelming. She ran simulation after simulation, looking for any strategy that could work. Most ended with the Indomitable destroyed in the first few minutes. She found one approach that might work. It was risky and brutal. They would have to attack with complete aggression, no defense at all. Hit the enemy so hard and fast that they panicked. Make them afraid. Use every weapon they had in the first moments of combat. It was all or nothing. She showed the plan to Captain Kim. He studied it for a long moment, then nodded. They would do it. Dr. Minji Choi walked through the ship's corridors, checking on the crew. The high-speed travel was hurting people. Some had burst blood vessels in their eyes. Others had bruised ribs from the pressure. A few had passed out from the strain. She treated them as best she could and sent them back to their stations. No one asked to be relieved from duty. Everyone knew what was at stake. In the Marine barracks, Sergeant Boram Yoon prepared her soldiers for combat. She was young for her rank, only 29, but she had earned her position through 3 brutal campaigns. Her Marines checked their weapons, tested their armor, and ran through boarding drills. They might have to fight their way through 40 pirate ships to reach the station, or they might all die in the first attack. Either way, they would be ready. Back on Crossroads Station, time was running out. 42 hours since the attack began. 12 hours left before complete shield failure. Hyun Nam stood in the command center and made a decision. He needed to tell people the truth. They deserved to know. He activated the station-wide communication system. His face appeared on every screen, in every room, every corridor. He looked tired. His eyes were red, but his voice was steady. He told them that no help was coming. Every government they had called had refused. The galaxy had abandoned them. In 12 hours, maybe less, the pirates would break through and board the station. He apologized. He had failed them. But he also told them something else. They had built something special here on this station. Dozens of species living together in peace, helping each other, trading, learning, becoming friends across the boundaries of biology and culture. That was worth something. That meant something. Even if they died, they had proven it was possible. He told them they had a choice. They could surrender and hope for mercy, or they could fight. He wasn't ordering anyone to fight. Each person had to decide for themselves, but if they chose to resist, he would be proud to stand with them. Then he ended the broadcast. The silence that followed was heavy. People looked at each other, at their neighbors from different worlds. Then something unexpected happened. In the crowded corridors, people started standing up. The avians ruffled their feathers. The insectoids clicked their mandibles in determination. The reptilians showed their teeth in fierce grins. They weren't going to die quietly. They were going to fight. Tixara found herself surrounded by volunteers. People who had never held a weapon wanted to learn. She started organizing them into groups. The avians would be scouts. Using their sharp eyes and ability to fly in low gravity, the insectoids would hold defensive positions with their natural discipline. Even the peaceful merchants picked up tools that could be used as weapons. Romak surprised everyone, including himself. He opened his warehouses and distributed everything useful: food, water, medical supplies, even weapons he had been smuggling. He had spent his whole life accumulating wealth. Now he gave it all away freely. What good was money if you were dead? What good was profit if you had no one to spend it with? Velnok calculated their chances of winning a fight against trained pirates. The numbers were terrible. But he noticed something interesting in his data. The defenders knew the station. Every corridor, every vent, every maintenance tunnel. The pirates wouldn't. That was an advantage. Small but real. He started drawing up plans for ambush points and choke points. Hours passed. The makeshift defenders prepared as best they could. Parents sent their children to the most protected areas. The elderly who couldn't fight offered to help in other ways, carrying messages and supplies. Everyone had a job. Everyone contributed. 6 hours left. The Indomitable was still pushing through space, engines screaming. June Park had to shut down 2 of the main drives before they exploded. They were running on backup power now. Speed had dropped. They were going to be late. Everyone on the ship knew it. They pushed anyway. 4 hours left. Another section of the station lost pressure. The shield generators were failing one by one. Velnok performed miracles keeping them running, but miracles couldn't last forever. Alarms rang constantly now. People barely noticed them anymore. 2 hours left. Kralvek sent his final message. Surrender now or everyone dies. No more chances. No more negotiations. Hyun Nam deleted the message without responding. Around the station, thousands of people gripped their weapons, checked their positions, and waited. They were afraid, but they were also ready. In the darkness between stars, the Indomitable raced toward a fight it might not win, to save people it had never met. The crew was exhausted, injured, and pushed beyond their limits. But they didn't slow down. They couldn't. Someone had to come. Someone had to try. If not them, then who? The sensor alarm was so unexpected that the technician thought it was a mistake. She checked the readings twice, then 3 times. Her hands were shaking as she turned to Velnok. There was a new contact on the edge of the system. Something big, something fast, something coming toward them. Velnok's compound eyes focused on the screen. At first he thought it must be another pirate ship. Maybe Kralvex had called for reinforcements. But the energy signature was different. The ship design was unknown. It was running hot. Engines pushed far beyond normal limits. Whatever it was moving faster than anything should be able to move. Commander Hyun Nam rushed to the sensor station. His heart was beating fast. More enemies? More pirates? They were already facing impossible odds. Then the identification signal came through. It wasn't a pirate. It was a warship. A human warship. The communication channel crackled to life. A calm voice spoke in clear galactic standard, with an accent that marked the speaker as human. The voice introduced itself as Captain Dae-Won Kim of the human spaceship Indomitable. They had received the distress call. They were coming to help. Hold on, the command center fell silent. Every person stared at the screens in disbelief. Tixara spread her wings slightly, a sign of shock. Velnok recalculated his numbers frantically. 1 ship, just 1, against 40 pirates. The humans must be confused. They must not understand the situation. Hyun Nam activated the communication channel. His voice cracked as he spoke. He told Captain Kim about the 40 ships surrounding them. He explained that the shields would fail in less than an hour. He thanked them for responding, but suggested they should save themselves. 1 ship couldn't make a difference here. Captain Kim's response was simple. They weren't leaving. They were coming. Hold the line for 1 more hour. The channel closed. The command center erupted in confused voices. Some people thought the humans were insane. Others thought it was a suicide mission. A few dared to hope. Romak heard the news in the refugee area. Humans, he barely knew anything about them. Some new species that had recently discovered faster than light travel, primitive by galactic standards. What could they possibly do against the Crimson Fleet? But something inside him wanted to believe. Someone had answered. Someone had come. On board Kralvex's flagship, the warlord received news of the approaching human ship with amusement. He had never fought humans before. They were barely known in this part of the galaxy. One ship, this was almost insulting. He ordered 5 of his vessels to intercept and destroy the newcomer. It would be good practice for his crews. Sub-Commander Threx reviewed the limited data they had on human military capabilities. There wasn't much information available. Rumors of fierce fighting in some distant war, reports of unusual tactics, something about humans being unusually aggressive when protecting others. He suggested caution. Kralvex laughed at him. 5 ships were more than enough. The Indomitable detected the 5 pirate ships moving to intercept. Captain Kim sat in his command chair, calm despite everything. His crew was exhausted from days of brutal acceleration. The ship itself was damaged from the strain. Hull plates had stress fractures. Systems were failing, but they had made it in time. That was what mattered. Commander Hana Lee prepared the weapon systems. Every gun was loaded. Every missile was armed. Every targeting computer was set to maximum aggression. She looked at Captain Kim. He nodded. They had discussed the strategy during the long journey. Hit first, hit hard. Make them afraid. She gave the order to her weapons crews. Fire at will. The 5 pirate ships formed a blockade across the Indomitable's path. They were confident. They outnumbered the human ship. They had better positions. Their crews were veterans of 100 raids. They waited for the human ship to slow down to try to negotiate or to run away. The Indomitable did neither. It accelerated directly toward them. Hana Lee watched her tactical display with intense focus. Range closing. 3,000 kilometers. 2,000. 1,000. The pirates were getting ready to fire. She spoke one word. Now. The Indomitable opened fire with everything it had. Railguns fired solid rounds at incredible speeds. The tungsten projectiles hit shields at a fraction of the speed of light. Shields that were designed to stop energy weapons couldn't handle solid mass moving that fast. The first pirate ship's shields failed instantly. The projectiles punched through the hull like it was paper. Secondary explosions rippled through the vessel. It broke apart in seconds. The second pirate ship tried to turn to present its armored side. Missiles from the Indomitable curved around it, their guidance systems tracking the target with perfect precision. They hit the engines. The ship stopped moving, dead in space. Its crew was alive but helpless. The third and fourth pirate ships opened fire together. Energy beams and plasma bolts hit the Indomitable. The human ship's shields absorbed some hits, flickered, and held. More fire came in. The shields failed. Weapons hit the armor directly. Metal melted. Hull plates broke away. Alarms screamed through the ship. But the Indomitable kept coming. Lieutenant June Park worked frantically in engineering. He rerouted power to the shield generators, stealing energy from life support, from gravity, from anywhere he could. The shields came back online for a few seconds, just long enough to absorb another volley. He was performing miracles, and he knew miracles couldn't last. But he only needed to last a few more minutes. The Indomitable passed between the third and fourth pirate ships, firing in both directions at once. Laser arrays cut through armor. Railgun rounds destroyed weapon batteries. The human ship was so close that the pirates couldn't turn fast enough to track it. At point-blank range, the Indomitable was devastating. Both pirate ships took critical damage. One lost all power. The other started venting atmosphere. The fifth pirate ship turned to run. Its captain had seen enough. 3 ships destroyed, 2 crippled in less than 5 minutes. This human vessel fought like nothing he had ever encountered. No hesitation, no fear. Just pure aggressive violence. He ordered his ship to flee at maximum speed. The Indomitable's missiles caught him anyway. They hit his engines from behind. The explosion was visible across the entire system. On Crossroads Station, people watched in stunned silence. The screens showed debris where 5 pirate ships had been. The human warship continued toward the station, trailing smoke and sparks but still moving. Still coming. Velnok's mandibles clicked rapidly as he recalculated his probability estimates. This shouldn't have been possible. 1 ship had just defeated 5 in direct combat. The math didn't make sense. Tixara felt something she hadn't felt in days. Hope. Real hope. These humans had done the impossible. They had fought through overwhelming odds because a station full of strangers needed help. She looked at Hyun Nam. He was staring at the screen with tears on his face. Romak stood in the crowded corridor, listening to others around him whisper in amazement. Someone asked who these humans were. Another person said they must be the greatest warriors in the galaxy. A child asked if they were safe now. The adults didn't know how to answer. One ship had come, but 35 pirates remained. Kralvex watched the destruction of his 5 ships with growing rage. He had underestimated these humans badly. This single vessel had torn through his forces like they were nothing. His crews were afraid now. He could hear it in their voices on the communication channels. Fear was spreading through his fleet. Threx spoke carefully. He suggested that perhaps they should withdraw, find easier targets. The human ship was damaged but still deadly, and humans had a reputation for being unpredictable when cornered. Kralvex refused. He had 35 ships remaining. He ordered his entire fleet to converge on the human vessel. They would destroy it through sheer numbers. No single ship, no matter how well commanded, could survive 35 enemies at once. The pirate fleet began to move, forming up into attack formations. They were taking this seriously now. The casual arrogance was gone. This was going to be a real battle. On the Indomitable's bridge, Captain Kim watched the enemy ships repositioning. He spoke to his crew over the internal communication system. They had done well. They had bought time for the station. But the real fight was about to begin. Commander Hana Lee checked her ammunition levels. They had used a lot of ordnance in that first engagement. Missiles were down to 60%. Railgun ammunition was at 70%. Energy weapons were fine as long as the power held. She calculated quickly. They couldn't destroy 35 ships. Not with what they had left. But maybe they didn't need to. Maybe they just needed to get to the station. Captain Kim approved the plan. They would punch through the pirate formation, get to the station and dock. Marines would board and help with the defense. The ship itself would serve as an additional shield for the station. It was risky. Once docked, they would be a stationary target. But it was their best chance. Maybe their only chance. The Indomitable changed course, aiming directly for Crossroads Station. Behind it, 35 pirate ships followed like a pack of predators. The howl from the void had arrived. Now it had to survive long enough to make a difference. The pirate fleet spread out in a wide formation, trying to surround the Indomitable. Kralvex was done underestimating the humans. He positioned his ships carefully, creating overlapping fields of fire. There would be no escape this time. The human vessel would have to face attacks from every direction at once. Captain Kim sat calmly in his command chair, despite the chaos around him. Damage reports were coming in constantly. The ship was hurt. Hull breaches on 3 decks. Armor gone in several sections. One of the main reactors was running at dangerous temperatures. But the engines still worked. The weapons still fired. That was enough. Commander Hana Lee watched the pirate ships positioning themselves. She saw what they were trying to do. Trap the Indomitable in the center and hit it from all sides. Standard tactics for overwhelming a single target. But standard tactics assumed the target would try to avoid damage. She had a different idea. She showed Captain Kim her plan. He looked at it for a long moment, then smiled grimly. It was crazy. It might work. The Indomitable suddenly changed course. Instead of trying to avoid the pirates, it accelerated directly toward the thickest part of their formation. The pirates opened fire. Energy beams and missiles came from a dozen ships at once. The human vessel's shields lasted 3 seconds before failing completely. Weapons fire hit bare armor. Metal melted and tore. But the ship kept going. Lieutenant June Park was shouting orders in engineering. The damage was catastrophic. Systems were failing faster than his crew could repair them. But he focused on the critical systems. Keep the engines running. Keep the weapons firing. Everything else was secondary. His crew worked like they had trained their entire lives for this moment. Because they had. The Indomitable fired as it charged through the pirate formation. At close range, every shot counted. A railgun round destroyed a pirate ship's bridge. Missiles crippled another's engines. Laser arrays cut through armor and into vital systems. The human ship wasn't trying to destroy every enemy. It was trying to cripple as many as possible, to reduce the number that could chase it to the station. More hits struck the Indomitable. An entire section of the ship lost atmosphere. Emergency bulkheads sealed, but 12 crew members were trapped on the wrong side. They died doing their duty. Dr. Minji Choi received the casualty reports in medical. She had no time to grieve. The wounded kept coming. She worked with bloody hands, saving who she could. The Indomitable broke through the pirate formation. Behind it, 8 more pirate ships were damaged or destroyed. But the human vessel had paid a terrible price. It was leaking atmosphere from multiple breaches. One engine was dead. Weapon systems were failing. The ship was dying, but it wasn't dead yet. And the station was right ahead. On Crossroads Station, everyone watched the approaching ship. It was trailing debris and fire. Parts of it were simply gone, torn away by enemy weapons. It looked like it should have exploded already, but it kept moving toward them. Velnock calculated that the ship shouldn't be able to function with that much damage. Human engineering must be incredible, or human crews must be impossibly tough. Maybe both. Commander Hyun Nam ordered the station's docking bay to prepare for emergency boarding. They cleared the area and set up medical stations. Whatever condition that human crew was in, they would need help. Tixara positioned her security teams. If the humans were coming aboard, they would need to coordinate the defense together. The Indomitable reached the station and began docking procedures. The ship's automated systems were mostly destroyed, so Lieutenant June Park had to dock manually. His hands moved across the controls with perfect precision despite his exhaustion. The ship shuddered as it connected to the station's docking clamps. They had made it. Against all odds, they had reached the people who needed help. The airlock opened. Sergeant Borum Yoon led her Marines through first, weapons ready, expecting anything. What they found was a crowd of aliens staring at them in wonder. Different species, different sizes, different faces, but all wearing the same expression, hope mixed with disbelief. These humans had actually come. They had fought through an entire fleet to get here. Yoon lowered her weapon and removed her helmet. She was young, her face streaked with sweat and ash. She looked at the crowd and spoke in simple galactic standard. They were here to help. Tell them what needed to be done. The aliens hesitated for just a moment, then started talking all at once. The shields needed repair. The medical bay was overwhelmed. The defenses needed to be strengthened. Yoon listened to everything, nodding. Her Marines immediately began unloading equipment. Dr. Minji Choi came through next, followed by her medical team. They carried supplies and equipment. She saw the station's makeshift medical area and immediately started organizing it properly. She worked alongside alien doctors, showing them human emergency medicine techniques. Some procedures worked across species. Others needed adjustment. She figured it out as she went, treating wounded aliens with the same care she gave her own crew. Lieutenant June Park arrived with his engineering team. He met Velnock in the engineering section. The insectoid engineer showed him the failing shield generators. June Park studied them for a moment, then started issuing orders. His team pulled components from the Indomitable's damaged systems, parts that weren't designed for this station's shields. But June Park made them work anyway, improvising connections and rerouting power. Velnock watched in fascination. Human engineering was more art than science. Commander Hyun Nam met Captain Kim in the station's command center. The two men shook hands, a human gesture that Nam had learned years ago. He tried to find words to thank Kim, but his voice broke. Kim simply placed a hand on his shoulder. They were here now. That was what mattered. They would face whatever came next together. Outside the station, the pirate fleet regrouped. They had lost 13 ships total, destroyed or too damaged to fight. 27 remained. Kralvex was furious but also calculating. The human ship was docked now. It couldn't run. It couldn't maneuver. It was a stationary target. He would destroy it and the station together. He ordered his fleet to launch boarding pods, hundreds of them, carrying thousands of pirates. They would overwhelm the defenders through sheer numbers. His troops were experienced. They had conquered dozens of stations. This would be no different. The human ship might be dangerous in open space, but in close combat on a station, his numbers would win. The boarding pods launched. Crossroads Station's remaining defense guns tried to shoot them down. They destroyed some, but most got through. The pods hit the outer hull in dozens of places. Magnetic clamps locked on. Cutting torches began burning through metal. The pirates were coming. Sergeant Yoon had been expecting this. She had spent the last hour setting up defensive positions throughout the station. She placed her Marines at key choke points. The avian security forces would watch from above, using their ability to fly in the station's light gravity. The insectoid volunteers held the strongest defensive lines. Even the merchants and civilians who wanted to fight had positions. Everyone had a job. The first pirates breached through in the commercial district, 20 of them heavily armed and armored. They expected to find terrified civilians. Instead, they found Sergeant Yoon and 5 Marines waiting behind barricades. The pirates barely had time to realize their mistake before the humans opened fire. Human weapons fired with devastating accuracy. The Marines moved like they could read each other's minds, covering angles and supporting each other perfectly. Pirates fell. Some tried to retreat back to their breach point. Tixara's avian forces swooped down from above, attacking from an angle the pirates hadn't expected. The pirate assault in that section broke completely. Survivors fled, but that was just one breach point. There were dozens more. In the residential section, 50 pirates pushed through and encountered Velnok's insectoid volunteers. The insectoids held their positions with absolute discipline. They didn't panic. They didn't break. They fought like soldiers who knew they were protecting their homes. The pirates expected easy targets and found determined defenders instead. In the engineering section, pirates tried to destroy the shield generators. Lieutenant June Park was waiting for them with heavy maintenance equipment converted into improvised weapons. His engineering crew fought with tools and determination. They weren't soldiers, but they were creative. One engineer sealed a corridor by venting it into space. Another electrified a floor panel and lured pirates onto it. Romak found himself fighting alongside 2 human marines and an insectoid he recognized from the market. They held a corridor against waves of pirates. The humans taught him how to use cover properly, how to shoot and move. He wasn't good at it, but he was learning. And more importantly, he was helping. For the first time in his selfish life, he was part of something bigger than himself. The battle raged through the station's corridors for hours. Pirates would take a section, then lose it to a counterattack. The defenders fought desperately but intelligently. The humans had taught them how. Don't just defend, attack back. Make the enemy afraid. Make them pay for every meter. Turn the station itself into a weapon. Dr. Choi's medical area was hit by a pirate assault. 10 pirates broke through, thinking it would be an easy target. They found Dr. Choi with a weapon in her hands. She was a doctor trained to save lives, but the battle had been raging for 6 hours. The station's corridors were scarred with burn marks and blood. Bodies of pirates lay scattered where they had fallen. But the defenders held. Every section, every corridor. The pirates couldn't break through. Sergeant Borum Yoon moved through the station with her squad, reinforcing weak points and launching counterattacks. She was covered in dust and ash. Her armor had taken hits that should have killed her, but she kept fighting. Her Marines followed her example. They were exhausted, running on determination and stimulants from Dr. Choi's medical supplies, but they didn't stop. In one corridor, Yoon found Tixara's security forces pinned down by heavy pirate fire. The avians couldn't fly in that section because the ceiling was too low. Yoon led her squad in a flanking attack that caught the pirates by surprise. Together, humans and avians pushed the pirates back. Tixara looked at Yoon with something like reverence. She had never seen warriors like these humans. Lieutenant June Park had managed to get the shields back to partial strength. They wouldn't stop a concentrated attack, but they would hold for now. He moved to help with the defense, carrying tools that he used as weapons. He wasn't a soldier, but today everyone fought. He helped seal breaches, trapped pirates in sections without air, and improvised traps that caught the enemy off guard. Velnok worked beside him, his insectoid precision combined with June Park's creative problem-solving. Together they created defenses that shouldn't have been possible. The station itself became their weapon. They used the environment, the layout, the systems. Everything was a tool. Pirates found themselves trapped in sections that suddenly lost gravity, or facing sealed doors that they couldn't cut through in time. Romak was defending a junction with 3 other merchants and 1 human marine. The marine was teaching them proper shooting techniques between firefights. Romak realized he was learning from someone half his age, from a different species, and he didn't care. The marine was keeping them alive. The marine treated them like they mattered, like they were worth saving. A group of pirates tried to breach the medical area again. Dr. Choi had organized the walking wounded into a defense line. When the pirates came through, they faced doctors, patients, and medical staff all fighting together. Dr. Choi herself fired with calm precision, then went back to treating wounded between attacks. She had lost count of how many lives she had saved today. Human lives, alien lives, they were all just lives that needed saving. On his flagship, Kralvik stared at his screens in fury and disbelief. Half his boarding force was dead or captured. The other half was pinned down in small pockets throughout the station. He had sent thousands of pirates, experienced warriors, and they were losing to civilians led by a handful of human soldiers. Threx spoke carefully. He suggested retreat. They had lost too many ships, too many troops. This station wasn't worth it anymore. The humans had changed everything. Whatever reputation the Crimson Fleet had was being destroyed right now. Better to leave and rebuild somewhere else. Kralvex refused. He would not be defeated by humans. He would not run. He ordered his remaining ships to prepare for a final assault. They would bombard the station directly, destroy it completely. If he couldn't have it, no one would. He would kill everyone aboard, humans and aliens alike. That would send a message to the galaxy. On the Indomitable, Captain Daewon Kim received the warning from the station's sensors. The pirate fleet was powering up weapons for a bombardment. He looked at his own ship's status. The Indomitable was barely functional. Most weapons were offline. The engines were damaged. The crew was exhausted. But there was still one thing his ship could do. One final move. He called Commander Hana Lee to the bridge. She came up from the weapons deck, her uniform torn and burned. He showed her his plan. Her eyes widened. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. It was insane. It was desperate. It might work. Or they might all die. But what choice did they have? Kim ordered the Indomitable to undock from the station. The ship's damaged engines struggled to move it away from the docking clamps. Metal groaned. Systems sparked and failed, but slowly the warship pulled free. It turned to face the pirate fleet, a battered predator facing a pack of hunters. Captain Kim opened a channel to the pirate fleet. He broadcast on all frequencies, making sure every ship could hear. His voice was calm and clear. He gave them one chance. Stand down. Leave this system, or be destroyed. There was a long silence. Then Kralvex's laughter echoed through the channel. The warlord called Kim a fool. One damaged ship against his entire fleet? This was over. Kim's response was simple. He ordered the Indomitable to set a collision course with Kralvex's flagship. Maximum acceleration. He announced this openly, making sure everyone heard. The human ship would ram the flagship. They would both be destroyed. Kralvex would die along with his enemies. The Indomitable accelerated. Its damaged engines screamed in protest. The ship shook violently. Alarms blared, but it kept moving, building speed, aiming directly at the flagship like a missile. On the station, people watched in horror. The humans were sacrificing themselves. Captain Kim was going to destroy his own ship and his crew to stop the pirates. Kralvex watched the human ship approach. At first, he thought it was a bluff. No captain would actually do this. But the Indomitable didn't slow down. It kept coming. Faster. Closer. The human vessel would impact in 30 seconds, 20, 10. Threx was shouting at Kralvex to move, to jump to faster than light speed, to do something. But Kralvex was frozen, staring at the approaching ship. At 5 seconds to impact, Kralvex's nerve broke. He screamed the order to retreat. His flagship jumped to FTL in a panic. The sudden jump was messy and dangerous, but he didn't care. He just wanted to get away from that insane human ship. The rest of his fleet saw their commander flee and followed immediately. Ship after ship vanished into faster-than-light travel, abandoning the battlefield. The Indomitable began slowing down, its engines finally dying completely. The ship coasted through empty space where a fleet of pirates had been moments before. On the bridge, Captain Kim allowed himself a small smile. Commander Hana Lee was laughing with exhaustion and relief. They had bluffed the pirates into running. The gamble had worked. On Crossroads Station, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then someone started cheering. The sound spread through the station like wildfire. Aliens of every species shouted, cried, hugged each other. They had survived. The humans had saved them. Against impossible odds, against every logical prediction, the humans had saved them. Sergeant Yoon collapsed against a wall, too exhausted to stand anymore. Alien civilians gathered around her, thanking her, touching her armor in wonder. She tried to wave them off, embarrassed by the attention. They had just done their job, just answered a distress call. But to these people, the humans were heroes, saviors, proof that someone in the galaxy still cared. Dr. Choi treated the last of the wounded. Human and alien, soldier and civilian, everyone received care. She worked for another 12 hours straight before finally sleeping. When she woke up, She found alien doctors had covered her with blankets and left gifts of food. They had learned human medicine from her. She had saved dozens of their people. Lieutenant June Park began the long process of repairing the Indomitable. The ship was badly damaged. It would take months of work, maybe longer. Velnock volunteered his entire engineering team to help. They worked together, insectoid precision and human creativity solving problems that neither could solve alone. The station's people provided materials, labor, anything the humans needed. Commander Hyun Nam walked through the station, seeing the damage and the survivors. They had paid a terrible price. 103 station residents were dead. 17 human crew members had died as well. The station was scarred, but it was still standing. And 12,000 people were alive because one human ship had decided to answer a distress call. Tixara approached Captain Kim in the command center. She wanted to ask him something, but words failed her. How do you thank someone for saving your entire world? Kim seemed to understand. He told her they didn't need thanks. This was what humans did. Someone called for help. They came. It was simple. It was right. Homak found himself changed by the experience. He had fought beside others. He had risked his life for his neighbors. He had learned that profit wasn't the most important thing in life. He donated half his wealth to rebuilding the station. The other merchants stared at him like he had gone insane. Maybe he had. Or maybe he had finally become sane. News of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy. One human ship against 40 pirates. A station saved when every government had refused to help. The story traveled from system to system, species to species. People talked about the humans who had come when no one else would. The humans who had fought impossible odds and won. The humans who believed that leaving people to die was unacceptable. The governments that had ignored the distress call suddenly faced angry populations. Why did one human ship respond when 40 allied vessels wouldn't? Politicians made excuses. Ambassadors tried to explain. But the damage was done. The story of Crossroads Station became a mirror showing the galaxy its own coordi.